What is going on, guys? Welcome back to our Flame Racing Reviews. And today we're going to be talking about two former F1 drivers and one former F1 driver, one current. But in my personal opinion, we're going to talk about two former F1 drivers who are potentially going to be in IndyCar this year. You might be saying, how are you saying former when Yuki Tsunoda is currently in F1? Well, let's just be real. The chances of him keeping that Red Bull seat or staying in F1, I think at this point are very, very slim. The reports that we're hearing is that Isaac Hadjar is replacing him at Red Bull, and Isaac Lindblad and Liam Larson will make up the Racing Bull seat, so we can assume that he'll be out of F1. And we got to talk about what does 2026 look like for Yuki, and also there's another F1 driver that goes by the name Mick Schumacher. You might have heard of him. His dad is seven-time world champion Michael Schumacher. Mick Schumacher drove 2 years in F1, 2021 and 2022 with Haas. He also is the 2020 F2 and 2018 F3 champ. So Mick Schumacher knows how to drive. Yuki Tsunoda came third in the 2020 F2 season and has raced in F1 ever since 2021 when he debuted with AlphaTauri. And he's pretty much been in that junior team his whole career except this year when he got the promotion to Red Bull in round 3 in Japan. Obviously, Mick Schumacher in 2022 was dropped by Haas, and we've not seen him in F1 since. The most we've seen him as a reserved role at Mercedes for 23 and 24. Mick Schumacher the past 2 years has driven. He's gotten back behind the wheel, and he has been a hypercar driver for Alpine in the World Endurance Championship, and it was announced today that he'd be leaving that role. So we know Mick Schumacher, as of right now, has nothing announced for 2026, and we believe Yuki Tsunoda right now has nothing for 2026 either. But before we get more in depth into this video, I gotta tell you about today's sponsor. That's right, it's a sponsor. I don't know if you can see the box because of the glare, but that box says Keepsakers, and I'm sponsored by the lovely brand of Keepsakers, who makes the great IndyCar T-shirts. I about said TV shows there. That would have been really funny. So did it again. T-shirts. Keepsakers makes the best and unique T-shirts out there. They are the coolest IndyCar T-shirts known to man. You can't find a better and cooler T-shirt in general. If you are an IndyCar fan or a racing fan, you got to check these out because this is like this shirt kind of reminds me of how everyone's wearing the Formula One T-shirts out there. Why? Because they look cool. Well, if you're an IndyCar fan, you want to be like, I'm tired of people who don't know anything about racing wearing cool Formula One T-shirts. Well, guess what? Buy this T-shirt. They look cool. They look awesome. You don't even have to be a racing fan to wear these T-shirts because they're so cool. These T-shirts are the bomb. Where can you get them at? Any IndyCar race weekend. Of course, we're in the off-season right now, so how do you get them? You got to go to their shop, and it's simply just keepsakers.com. And there might be a holiday coming around Thanksgiving, and following Thanksgiving is normally Black Friday. Well, they have a Black Friday deal for 20% off. The code is capital B, capital F, no space, 20. There's no spaces, capital B, capital F, 20, BF20. You guys already know. Use that code, get 20% off. It's a deal. These shirts are cool. You don't even have to be a racing fan to wear them. That's all I got to say. So if you're an IndyCar fan, get them. So now let's dive back into what do I think Mick Schumacher and Yuki Tsunoda will do in the 2026 season. And I think they're both going to be in IndyCar. And why do I think that? Well, they both have driven an IndyCar before. They both driven an IndyCar before. Mick Schumacher has driven his at Vegas, and I said that backwards. Mick Schumacher has driven his at the IMS road course, and Yuki Tsunoda has driven his at Vegas. So Yuki Tsunoda in 2024, so at the end of last year, at the Las Vegas Grand Prix, got an opportunity with Honda, and they had like a hypercar, I believe, or like some type of IMSA endurance racing car. They had an IndyCar, they had a Formula One car out. They had the Red Bull drivers down there. I believe they just had Yuki and Liam Larson down there, and they had Scott Dixon down there. They had a bunch of the Honda drivers. And Yuki Tsunoda got behind the wheel of an IndyCar, and he did pretty good. I mean, if we're being honest, he drove the car pretty well. He seemed like he enjoyed it, and I would say that is his only IndyCar experience. But I would say that really opened the door to him in IndyCar. And I would say he liked it. I mean, he looked like he enjoyed it. But why do I think he's coming to IndyCar and specifically now? Well, as I mentioned earlier, he's been in F1 since 2021, driving a lot for Visa Catch App / AlphaTauri / VCAR, whatever we're going to call that team, and this year for Red Bull. But as we know, his performance this year has not been very good in F1 whatsoever. He's driven that car terribly. I mean, that's not even being rude. It's just true. He's probably been Verstappen's weakest teammate to date, which is saying something. But It sucks, but that's just the reality of the situation we have. Yuki Tsunoda has been Verstappen's weakest teammate, and is probably getting dropped for Isaac Hadjar, and Isaac Lindblad and Liam Larson will probably keep his seat at the Red Bull Junior team, VCARB. So that leaves Yuki Tsunoda with no seat. And obviously Honda leaving Red Bull, they will have no Red Bull connection. So there's really no need for Red Bull to keep him. If they don't see him as a Red Bull driver, there's no point in putting him back in Visa if you're just trying to keep Honda happy, because they don't have to do that anymore. The team that is going to be Honda next year is Aston Martin. Well, obviously they have Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll down. You could say, well, couldn't he just be a reserve driver? Well, nope. Aston Martin already has the reserve driver announced for next year, so I don't see a reality where they have two reserve drivers. So I don't think a reserve vote to Aston Martin with that Honda connection makes too much sense. So does he go to another team that's not a Honda? Probably not. Unfortunately, Yuki Tsunoda's name and reputation in F1 is not good enough probably to be a reserve driver at any other team. So I think that leaves his F1 doors pretty shut. I think he knows it. But he wants to be with Honda. So could you see Honda taking him to Super Formula? Maybe, but their season starts too soon. I don't think he'd have time to repair. By the time the F1 season gets over in the beginning of December to get ready for Super Formula, I just don't think he'd have the time. So that leaves their really only other option of IndyCar. And obviously Yuki Tsunoda is Honda's biggest star. He's their worldwide star right now. Unfortunately, Honda and the Japanese drivers, there's just not too many of them. So Yuki Tsunoda is number one. He's probably the best Japanese driver in the world right now, in my personal opinion. And Honda want to get him that global recognition, and also Super Formula doesn't give you that global recognition. What does? IndyCar. Honestly, if you can't go to Formula One, they say what's the next best thing? IndyCar, in my personal opinion, it's a bunch of crap. IndyCar is just as good, if not better, than Formula One. The racing product is 10 times better than Formula One. That's a video for a whole other day. So Yuki Tsunoda, he's going to come over. I think Honda's going to bring him over to IndyCar. Well, there's 2 open seats right now. It's the 30 at Ray Hall. We'll get to that later. But what's likely going to happen is he'll go to the 19 of Dale Coyne. Dale Coyne said earlier in the year that they were going to announce their driver by Halloween. Well, that's not happened. They've now gone on to say their new Halloween is Thanksgiving. Do I think Tsunoda to Dale Coyne will be announced by Thanksgiving? No. I think there's a chance we don't know who their driver is. Red Bull said they might not know to the Monday after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. I believe their last race is like December 5th. Yuki Tsunoda might not be announced to that Dale Coyne seat till like December 15th. Like honestly, I know Dale was going to have it signed by the 31st of October, which I think that was going to happen. I genuinely think they had Hauger and Grosjean lined up and ready to go, but I think this has come up, and Dale's like, whoa, we have a chance to get a big-name driver who's going to bring us lots of global recognition, who's going to sell a lot of merch. Let's wait here. I have the power to wait. I think they're going to wait. Dale Coyne has 2 cars completely funded for next year, so he doesn't need to bring any money. He will. Honda will supply a bunch of stuff, and with Honda being worried about Honda leaving, this gives Honda a reason to stay. You have a full-time Japanese driver who's young and is exciting, can spend 10 to 15 years in IndyCar. That gives Honda a reason to sign up to IndyCar for 10 to 15 more years. I think it makes too much sense for this to happen, especially if you're trying to get Honda to stay. If you're IndyCar, you're honestly probably helping Yuki Tsunoda to come over. I think IndyCar would rather have this happen more than Schumacher coming over. So if you look at his options, I don't think Formula One's going to be there. This 19 at Dale Coyne might be Yuki's best chance at being in a competitive seat, and not only that, being in an open-wheel car. You can't beat it. You can't beat it if you're Yuki Tsunoda, in my opinion. So I think this is the best option he's got, and I fully expect Yuki Tsunoda to be in the 19 at Dale Coyne. Also, I can't wait when this video's out there for like 2 weeks, and Yuki Tsunoda's announced that he's kept his seat at Red Bull, and Schumacher's signed to some other seat somewhere else. And I look like an idiot for making this video, and I get clipped. I can't wait for that. But I do believe this is what's happening. So now we're going to talk about Mick Schumacher. Obviously, Mick Schumacher, I mentioned, drove a test roughly about a month ago at the IMS road course, and he did fairly well. He stacked up pretty good against other IndyCar drivers, and it looked like he was enjoying his time. And he said the only thing that's going to make me come or not come to IndyCar is if he likes it. That's literally his words, and it sounded like, from what I saw, that Mick Schumacher enjoyed it. I think Mick Schumacher clearly loved IndyCar. I think he loved how that car felt. I think he loved being back in an open-wheel car. The Schumacher name belongs in an open-wheel car. he belongs in an open wheel car. He probably should have gotten a better chance in Formula One. I think he's a good driver. So this 30 car at Rahal, I didn't see it happening, but obviously with the test he's done with Rahal, Yuki Tsunoda got to drive a test in a show run. Mick Schumacher actually got a for real test with Rahal, and he said, all I have to do is like it to come. And Jay Fry, the team principal, said, if Mick Schumacher comes, I'll treat him like a son and show him the ways of IndyCar. So I think it makes too much sense for Mick Schumacher not to come. And announced today, he's leaving the Alpine Hypercar program. So that gives me even more reasoning to believe Mick Schumacher will come. I think Mick Schumacher, Racing News is announced pretty much Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, because then tomorrow's Friday, and then it'll be all the F1 Las Vegas jazz. So they won't announce it tomorrow, Saturday, or Sunday, or Monday, because then we'll have to debrief the F1 Las Vegas jazz. I think next Tuesday, I don't know what that date is, but I think next Tuesday we'll see Mick Schumacher announced for Rahal. Next Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. One of those days, I think Mick Schumacher will for sure be announced as a Rahal Letterman Lanigan driver, and I think we'll have to wait a little bit longer for Yuki, but I think the final 2 seats in the NTT IndyCar Series are going to go to 2 former F1 drivers, and I shouldn't say 2 former because 1 is former, 1 is current as of right now, which is super exciting to see, and the Indy 500 one-off seats for IndyCar are going to get pretty crazy. So this IndyCar silly season, although it's kind of wrapping up, it's still got a lot to play, and there's 2 more seats that could go to 2 former F1 drivers, with one of them being a huge name in Mick Schumacher. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. With that being said, get keepsakers for your family, make a great holiday gift, and subscribe.